Hello, friends. Just took a nice couple of deep breaths for you there. Hope you enjoyed that. Today has been a day, as you might have been able to determine from those noises. So, we're gonna stop the music. We're gonna get things going here. It is time tonight for bars. Becoming an anti-racist society. Tonight's episode has a few new guests. I'm excited for you to meet them. We're going to continue to do our part as a community to grow and learn together and become anti-racist, to find all instances of racism within us and the systems that we support and perpetuate, and work together to root them out bit by bit. So, without any further ado or heavy, deep sighs from me, let's get started. Oh, and keep in mind that all alerts are going to be off for this, and we will just be having a discussion. So if you want to have any questions answered, give them to Bossy or one of the other moderators. They can add it to our list, and we are going to review some at the end. All right.
Yeah.
Ooh, hello.
Hello. Hey.
Y'all, I'm sitting there right as we're getting this stuff started, you know, going through all of the things that are happening. And I fucking did some super heavy, deep sigh, like just noises. And then I realized my mic was on for stream.
Oh,
Sounds
so
about right.
then instead of counting us in, you just do the same thing to us.
I was just like, oh my. Okay.
All right.
So welcome to bars. Let's see. I think I got. Oh my god, I didn't even finish fucking fixing this name. Look at how good I am at stuff. I duplicated it. There's two cans. Oh my god.
Can't take her nowhere, I swear.
Oh my god. For real, today has been a day. Woo. Okay. Holy shit, I'm good at stuff. And Token is super zoomed in. That's exciting. We got to be happy about that.
Enhance.
Oh man. Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out.
No. Bring us closer. Let me get deep in your eyes.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
What are you doing?
Maybe.
So yeah, the last time that we did this, 3 of us were able to introduce ourselves. So, or 4 of us. I am a human apparently. So LR, Rec, Sunny, wave at everyone, say hello real quick.
Hello.
Hi.
She's like, I'm not gonna do it. And I'm Snaps, so you know, I'm gonna be doing my best to use my full brain today and lead some good discussions here. And with us today, I'm so excited. We have 2 really great friends and members of the community, and we're gonna start with Ken and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. So just, you know, say your name, what you do, where you're from, anything else you feel is relevant, and your pronouns, please.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Right here, Ken, Twitch content creator, pronouns he, him, his. Currently residing in Madison, Wisconsin. Primarily play Destiny 2, but love to get into a bunch of different games and have challenges and things of that nature. Also, really enjoy fundraising for great causes. So, you know, St. Jude's, Trevor Project, Extra Life, things of that nature. So really just try to build a great community through gaming and being able to just connect with folks.
Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. He's a really, really awesome dude, and every time I see him, I get yummy beer, which is also a real frickin' treat. A real treat. Okay, hold on. I'm switching to this scene for just a hot second, because I gotta adjust volume, because I'm not smart. Oh my god. All right. Please. Nope, not that. Don't pay any attention to that. Holy shit.
Didn't put up
Oh,
merch.
someone hit the no promo command. Jesus. Okay, so I think everything else is addressed. Welcome, Ken.
Wait.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, we're good.
My turn? Is it me? Is it me
Yes.
next? Yeah, I was
was
making
just-
sure that
I was-
Snaps didn't want to like flash her stuff again, just to make sure we got that, you know, there. But yeah, hi, I'm that token guy. People call me token amongst many, many other names. I've heard it all. My pronouns are he, him, and his as well. I'm from Minnesota Hype with Sunny over here. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I mainly play Destiny, although my streams lately, all over the place, kind of a little off and on lately. But came from the Destiny community, grew through that, and now I kind of just do whatever the hell I want. So that's just a little bit about me.
Fuck yeah,
Do
man.
Do that.
So one of the things I know, I was excited, and we talked about this a little bit in our chat before stream. One of the things I was excited to be able to talk to you about tonight, especially because, the whole formation of this, everything we're doing is to really get into all of the different perspectives, right? Like, it's not just sitting here and like spouting off facts. We want to know more personal experiences so we can all understand things on a much deeper level. So we were talking before this about how when the Black Lives Matter movement started to come up again in the media, in our spaces, especially given George Floyd's death, we spoke a little bit about how you were struggling, you were second guessing yourself a bit on what to post, if you should post, what it was okay for you to kind of comment on. And you also spoke to your experiences, outside of just social media and how you conducted yourself. So I would love for you to speak to that a little bit more and talk about what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just really hit me a lot harder because this incident with George Floyd happened in my backyard essentially. It happened mere blocks away from where my wife grew up. I've had gone by that space countless times. I mean, I can't even count how many times. So it hit me a lot harder, just in that regard. But when I kind of sat and like thought about it, I think for me, like growing up, my mom raised me. She's a white mother raising a mixed son, and she did her best to just like put me through, keep me away from any like outside influences of anything, and just kind of sort of wrapped her arms around me and just kind of like led me through life a bit. And my schooling and my sort of personal experiences were pretty, I don't want to say they were just pretty like easy street, but I definitely felt, reflecting on everything, I felt that like I didn't have those same like hardships, those same experiences. I grew up, when growing up, I had, all white friends. I went to private schools. When I in high school, I went to a private all male military college prep academy. If that gives you any idea of the kind of schooling and kind of environment, I sort of went through, and that was a hard time for me personally, because your teenage years are really like your formidable years where you're learning more about yourself and figuring out like who you are. Um, so yeah, for me that was, I was a small kid. I was one of like two mixed kids in the whole school. And so it was really hard for me because I was bullied. I was, I had great friends. Luckily I had great friends, but I was bullied from middle school all the way, through high school almost to the end. And it was tough because a lot of the bullying was like, oh, there's a lot of racial tension behind the bullying, like, oh, he's black, like let's make fun of him, and saying the n-word and things like that. And it didn't necessarily, like, I don't want to say it didn't bother me, but I learned really quickly to get like a tough skin. I think I just, because of other things in my life, I just learned like really really quickly to just get a tough skin. So I think it didn't bother me as much, but it was between that and then, oh, he's black, but also like I was made fun of because I wasn't black enough. And that was hard for me too, because I was like, I was trying to figure out who I was. And a lot of the friends growing up and things like that, I had no one to really guide me in that way. Even different sides of my family and stuff like that, like I had real no contact like with my dad's side of the family, and that was kind of, that's part of my history, that's part of like who I am kind of thing, but I just never had that type of experience with them. So I didn't really have any guidance there. And, with the bullying and everything, it was very hard for me to figure out like where I fit in. And that continued for a while, like through college, I kind of still figured things out. But, that was a really hard time to like sit there and say, what am I supposed to be? Like, can I just be me? Like, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to be who I am. And it never felt like that was good for other people kind of looking in towards me. So, yeah, that's just kind of, don't mean to like take a lot of time discussing that, but it was just a very hard time, and still kind of hits me hard sometimes. Just thinking about it and everything going on. So my reaction to everything happening in the world in my backyard, it was just like, I feel for my community and my people, and it's hard because like I don't know what my experience would be, interacting with a police officer. It's just like I've never had that experience. I've literally never been pulled over. I have never like really come close with authority figures in that way, and so it was hard for me to relate to that. But yeah, I just struggled. It was a struggle to just sit there and think, how should I feel? How should I respond or react? That was tough too, because I was like, I should feel a certain way. I should feel strongly. This is like, you know, this is a part of me, and these people and this community is a part of me. So like there should be a strong feeling. So I struggle with that, and I still do. So yeah, that's just kind of my experience with that a little bit. I could go on and on forever, but yeah. So.
I think that's the idea behind this podcast or this stream thing that we've got going on here, is that yours is one of so many experiences that we don't get to hear enough of. And I think the reason why I know I wanted to bring this up for tonight's discussion, and I'm obviously very interested in hearing everyone else's thoughts on this as well, but the reason I wanted to bring this up especially is because it was kind of heartbreaking when we first spoke of this to hear you saying that you didn't feel qualified to speak on the Black experience as a Black man in this country, and the idea that you're kind of saying, like, at the time, especially, we were talking about this, like, I feel like I kind of had it easy because I haven't run into the cops. I haven't had any of these types of issues. And that is the awful thing, is that you consider yourself to be one of the lucky ones. And as a result, you feel disqualified from speaking on your own experience. Like, that just fucking sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the reason I wanted to talk about it here. I'm super interested in everyone else's thoughts on it too.
Yeah, I can chime in with that too. When I think you're right about 7th grade is when I went from a predominantly Black school to a predominantly white private school. And I was probably one of 6 or 7 folks that weren't white in like a class of 130 some odd kids. And at that age, it's definitely a lot about fitting in and making friends. And so I had a pretty short haircut. But one of the first kind of things was like, "Oh, dude, can I touch your hair?" And that was like,
the
yes,
faces,
the faces. Yeah, and it was something that was just like, sure. And I kind of picked up on that as something that was gonna make me really cool and fit in with the cool kids. And so, I was like telling my parents about it one evening when I got home, and they're like, "What the? No, don't let them touch your hair. Don't do that." And I just didn't understand. I was like, they're just being nice about it. And then like reflecting back on that and thinking too, there was some curiosity, of course, because I mean, most of these kids were, parents were multimillionaires, and they probably just didn't interact with people of my background before. And I also didn't do the same thing. I'd never listened to Dave Matthews Band or Fish before I went to that school. And so,
you didn't show up with Birkenstocks.
Like, you didn't come prepared.
I was not prepared. Like, it was such like an experience from that standpoint. But still, just like thinking back to some of those engagements where it was just like, that wasn't okay to do. But also, being able to take those experiences and educate folks on that. So as I like got older and moved into a high school that was private, there was this statewide forum where a lot of students from different schools would come together, and we would have discussions, different speakers, and things like that. And so I grew up in Connecticut, originally from Connecticut, and so this is in downtown Hartford. And we were driving into the space, and as we parked the mini bus or whatever we call them, toasters, they're like the shorter buses. Um, and so as we were like walking to the venue, there were some kids that saw us. We had on like blazers and slacks and dress shoes because there's obviously a dress code that you had to adhere to. And so these kids, kind of going back to Token where he was mentioning didn't really know where to fit in. You were getting it from both sides where like you weren't black enough. And so based on what our attire was, these kids were like, why are you dressed so white? Why are you talking so white? And just kind of being super aggressive about it and just having to have that conversation with them too about um don't put your worth based on your race. And so having to like have a serious conversation with some kids that were just on the side of the street that we were walking on, and we're just like calling us all sorts of names, and they're like, "You're not black," and we're like, "Why are you here?" And so it's that battle that's kind of had to um build that thickness and kind of have that preparation to have conversations and to be able to educate people on it. So that's kind of just like my experience on that.
Damn. So you throughout the process, you were kind of going the route of like educating folks along the way, like after you heard from your parents, like this is not okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that
It was sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Oh, I will, thank you. So it was yeah, it was tough because it was for being 13 years old, you're fighting with your inner feelings and what your parents are trying to say. It's like, oh man, my parents just don't want me to have fun at school. And then I have a brother that's a few years older than me, and so of course he was like, yeah, the same thing happened to me, but he didn't prep me for that. I think he wanted me to go through it myself and have that experience, because if he goes and preps me with that and then I go in and I'm like, don't touch my hair, and then you get that
Right.
certain rap. So in a small school, to kind of combat the bullying and things like that, he was like, you got to go through it yourself. But he definitely was like, yeah, the same thing happened to me because we went to the same school. So he was 2 years older than me. He was in ninth grade and I started in seventh grade. So he knew it was gonna happen. But he was just really like making sure that I was prepared to go the next few years there as well, um, to have that. So yeah, my parents weren't thrilled at all with it, but we've had conversations. It's been kind of like that prep from when he decided to start there 2 years prior to me.
Right.
It was like, this is just something you're gonna have. These kids don't know the culture. They don't know anything like uh being raised in a Jamaican household. This is very different too. So um yeah, even just like picking up on things like that and how they would talk on the phone at work and how it was at home. And so you kind of had this duality going on um as you're growing up. And so yeah.
Talking about like code switching.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it still happens today too. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, which is a very interesting city to
Mhm.
be in.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's definitely greetings, whether that's from
Yeah.
a distance or up close, and I'm sure everyone can kind of speak to that too, where it's you have this engagement with one group and it's completely different with another group.
Yeah.
That's understandable, you know. That's it's absolutely stupid, and I know some of the conversations, I think we might have had them last week too, was in how some of y'all are starting to let go of that a little bit more, kind of let the line get a little blurrier, allow yourself to be your full self so you don't feel the need to switch as often.
Right.
Is that something that any of you would like to speak on how that's been for you?
Man.
And I loved the look on both of your faces as the hair talking or hair touching was talked about. And like LR, I think even like tried to propel himself away from it. He's like, no, that's a big no. Like, how do I escape the idea that someone's gonna do that? And
Yeah,
I
I
love
get it
seeing
a lot.
the Jamaican smile as that conversation came up.
Yeah, my dad's a Jamaican, so whenever I was at his house, I know it very well.
So speaking more
Definitely.
about the code switching then, and kind of starting to let those lines blur, starting to be more unabashedly you. Is that something that you were gonna go into before I detracted again?
Yeah, I was gonna say because like, I mean, like I was out from work for like a couple weeks because I had my own surgery stuff going on, but uh, I went back to work this week and I realized that a little bit of my Twitter self was slipping out at work. So I can't wait for the next couple weeks. So that's gonna be good. But yeah, like I just kind of got to a point where, at least on social media, that I just don't really want to sit here and code switch everything possible to just appease the anyone adjacent or above. And like, yeah, no, I kind of just flip my top, just like let it go. There's no point. It's like, and surprisingly, I've actually gotten like, I don't really care about numbers, but like there's been a fuck ton of people who've been following me based off of all the shit that I've been talking. And it's like, hey, like this is how it is from my point of view. Uh and if you don't agree with it, then you're complacent and we're gonna have a problem. And everyone's just kind of like, yeah, we're not complacent. Here's a follow. Like,
Oh man, it's
And
awesome that you've been doing that at work now.
uh, I don't know if it's awesome yet. I mean, there's nothing
uh,
I could talk about on here, but
yeah.
we'll see how work goes. I'll just leave it at that.
And I think for me, I would say it's the other way around where I've never code switched except for my grandfather dated a white lady when I moved in with him. So my mom, she was a single, mother. We lived in the hood of hoods. We moved literally every single year. Like I went to every single school in Flint, Michigan. And my middle school year is when my grandfather was just like, no, it's not happening anymore. I'm gonna move you here. So me having a family from down south plus living in Flint, I had a few pieces of uh, vocabulary that she didn't like. She didn't like me to say axe.
Oh my god,
Um,
it's
and
so nitpicky. Like,
and
oh my,
finna. And so I would be like, "Can I ask you a question?" And she's like, "You can't ask anything." So for she actually, I ended up correcting, I guess correcting because to me it wasn't wrong. Whatever.
Mhm.
I say ask now, and I intentionally enunciate it, but I guess I wouldn't call that code switching. That's just something that was kind of banged into my head. But as far as work goes, um, I I've never. I mean, you guys have heard my professional voice versus my game playing voice, but I wouldn't say that I've code switched.
Mhm.
I still keep the same vernacular, maybe in a different tone.
With a little bit more
Um,
vulgarity, I imagine. Like it gets a little gross when we're talking about slaying monsters and stuff.
exactly. I mean, I don't tell people at work to suck my dick or anything like that, but
uh,
I do, just keep it how it goes. That way, when they actually hear me be me, it's not a shock. Like, oh,
Mhm.
it's not, you know, she's not who we thought she was. No, you getting exactly who the fuck you thought you got. And as far as on Twitter, Snaps, you and I have been friends for a long time. And for a long time, people wouldn't fuck with me because
Yeah.
I'm too black.
Yep.
I talk about, and Rec too, I talk about stuff that people 9 times out of 10 will not like because it makes them uncomfortable. But now that being in black space is a cool thing to do, it's embraced.
Mm.
So we ain't got a code switch no more, y'all, because everybody else said it was okay.
Oh, that's the
Uh,
worst.
That's
God,
that's how I feel. Like I feel like, oh, we just got permission to not code switch no more.
that's basically exactly my feelings on that too. It's like everyone's just like, yo, black people living, that's real trendy. So like,
Wow.
we kind of got the green light to say pretty much any off the wall shit I want to say, and
You said
motherfuckers
some
just
off
gonna
the
like
wall
and
shit.
retweet it. But like,
I thought I was
it's
crazy.
off the wall shit to other people. That's not off the wall to us though.
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
cause I definitely be finding some off the wall shit that's just shaky for white folks, but the rest of us like, oh, we know.
Oh man, now I just really want examples. Like, can we just pull something up real quick? I don't know what's going on here, but let's get into it.
Let's see. Back when Philando Castile was shot,
Mm.
I lost a lot of friends because I was a lot of friends in the gaming space, and I'm not just gonna call them motherfuckers friends. I lost a lot of acquaintances
Yeah.
Yep.
in the gaming space, because I wasn't quiet about it. Um, I don't know if anybody has known, but I've always been a Colin Kaepernick fan, even before, kneeling and all of that stuff. I have pictures that I'll show you guys eventually. But I wasn't quiet about Colin Kaepernick and Snaps. You know that I've had a conversation with people from the community where they were like, "No, he's disrespectful as fuck." And then I talked to them, and then they're like, "Oh, well, that makes sense now," or
Yep.
I understand. And a lot of people are so close minded that they didn't want to hear that. So I lost a ton of folks then. Like they don't fuck with me no more. But now I bet you if I have that same conversation that I had about Colin Kaepernick those years ago, today, the interaction on them would be completely different. And it would be people who would not have interacted on it 2 years ago because now somebody said it's okay for them to interact or be okay with it.
Yep. And this thing with the Colin Kaepernick kneeling thing that like
Sorry, y'all.
always made no fucking sense to me is that if you played a sport and someone got injured, what's the first thing everybody on the fucking teams do? They take a fucking knee out of respect for the person who is injured, and they don't get up until they are safely carted off the field or the court or they're able to get up on their own. In what fucking way do you confuse that with disrespecting anything?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was during a song being sang.
Mm-hmm. I think you were the one who sent me the article that was talking about how he had even deliberately gone about it in the most respectful way as possible by speaking to someone from the military and saying like, "Hey, I want to make a statement. How can I do this respectfully?" And it was suggested from the military that he kneel.
Because he was being, I mean, he was, and he admits he did it as disrespectful as he could as fuck
Mm-hmm.
initially.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was given direction and coaching on what to do. And the fact remains is that people were not okay with it because some big name said that it wasn't okay. And I'm not even talking about it in the gaming space, but it trickled down into gaming space. Just in the society, a big name said that it's not okay for him to do that, and everybody said, "Oh, it's not okay. He's disrespecting America." And now that I don't know what to call it. Now that Black people are cool now, for the most part, to a lot of people. Not everybody, because a lot of people still don't fuck with us. But
A lot. A lot.
so now that we're gaining a bit more acceptance into certain spaces, um, it's okay now.
Man, what a
The hypocrisy.
fucked up thing to have to say, you know? Now that like it's we're gaining acceptance in communities. Like I really hope that the people in here, like especially like the white people in here are hearing that. Like there are so many people who I'm sure will listen to this and will be the type of people who were like racism is gone because we had a black president. Like, you know, pay attention to what's actually happening here. Listen to this genuine sentiment of all of these different people feeling the way that they had to act in a certain situation or a certain area had to be heavily monitored or adjusted, or having to even have the conscious thought of whether they were going to do that in the first place. Like that is something that us privileged white people do not have to do. We are in the majority of spaces. We can walk into them and just be like, I'm loud, I'm quirky, I'm what the fuck ever. I'm about to go listen to Dave Matthews Band because apparently that's the vibe, man. Like that's
You've got your home.
oh my god.
Lord of mercy.
One of the things that
Sorry.
you mentioned there, I think the idea that it's like okay now. That makes me wonder if some of the people in the community here who are watching, especially some of the folks that are not black, are feeling more okay with being able to speak on racism yourselves now. And LR, I'm interested in your perspective too, because we talk about the work of anti-racism. Like this isn't just a white US thing, right? This is
Right.
in kind of the cultures everywhere. Have you felt any difference since the kind of reemergence of the Black Lives Matter movement?
Not so much in Vancouver. Well, since all this has been happening anyways, things have been shut down, so I haven't really been able to go out and see or experience or like just be in like around people. So I can't speak too much like publicly, but I guess it's just a consequence of me being very like mindful about the kind of people I want to hang out with, and so I don't hang out with problematic individuals already. And like I've noticed with which it's just fortunate for the most part, and I've noticed that the people who have been problematic, they've either like stopped interacting with me, and it's been very few, or I've just either stopped interacting with them. Like the people I sit in game with daily, they're like, this is a problem, right? But then it's just so I can't say too much about how things have been different because I feel like black and brown are treated differently. Like from what my cousins told me, because he's working for a tech firm in Seattle, and like physically he's a little bit different than me. He's skinnier, he's a little darker, whereas I'm a little lighter but bearded. And so I feel like I fall in that ambiguous like Indian Arab category. So I'd be at a little bit more risk than my cousin because he's dark. Is like, okay, he's Indian or Sri Lankan or something. Which is like it was a point that I forgot to bring up the last time we did this. Was the first time I went to Guardian Con. I knew I'd never wanted to study in the States. So the first time I went to Guardian Con, I think I messaged Ben, and I'm like, would I be okay as a brown bearded individual coming to Tampa because of open carry laws? Because I don't know, because I don't live in the States. So I'm like, are people just going to be walking around the streets?
Well, they
So
ride their
that's kind of like-
gators, but yes.
That too, yeah. So I mean, that's definitely cause for worry too for somebody who's never experienced that. But no, like so my experience has been mostly of like personal safety, but I've never felt anything. So I'm lucky that way. But then what Ken and Token were talking about made me think of growing up I went to like a very mixed high school, so a lot of Indians, but a lot of South Africans, a lot of people from the UK, from France, and I went through a very small period of time where I'm like, I can't bring the food that I bring from home. Just a very small period of time, and I'm like, I'll just eat the food at school. The food at school is shit. So I went back to bring the food from home.
Unseasoned.
Seasoned.
I very quickly turned it. It was more like, I don't want to be not embarrassed, but like some people said like, oh, that smells, or it's fucking Indian food. Like it has flavors. Like we actually use spices, not boiled. Like what were you expecting?
It's not boiled ranch, Karen.
Well,
I think the worst part about the boiled ranch story is that the person who made it wasn't even white.
Oh my god, I forgot that was a real story, legitimately. I thought that was just one of those horrific things that we talked about, like people drinking hot dog water. It's awful that that's a fucking real thing. Oh.
Yeah.
Hydrate.
Everyone, this
It's a
is
real
not
water.
okay. Ooh.
I was literally.
So it was with the moment I tasted the food at school, I'm like, this is stupid. My food is better. And so from then I was very simple. Like, no, like people are just saying things. I've had that mindset from when I was like 15, 16. People are just saying things. It doesn't really affect me, and also it realistically didn't affect me in the way it affects younger Black people in the States.
Mhm.
Or in other parts of the world too, because that kind of discrimination and that disparity in how people are treated exists in other parts of the world, not just the States. But I'm like, it doesn't affect me, so I can just still bring my food and not have people say anything. Or I can go to this part of town and not have people say anything, because that's just how it was for me. So it's like I still notice the racism and all the other things, and maybe people have done things to me here in Vancouver, but like I don't care enough, and it's mostly just words and they don't actually do anything, so I'm still very privileged that way. But yeah, the other part I was thinking of is like when people are like, you're not Indian enough, or you're not Black enough.
Yeah.
Which I feel like I've heard other people say, like people have said I'm not Indian enough because of my accent. It's like, oh, it's Indian, but it's not really. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's because I joined a British speaking school, like an English British school, when I was 13, and I wanted to fit in, so I forced my accent to change, and now my accent switches depending on who I'm talking to. So I go full Indian when I'm talking to my family, and it's not something I consciously control either.
More
I've tried
code switching.
like, yeah, can I make sure that I do this when I want to? I can't. And so it's just all kind of like to fit in, to like seem normal, because we only ever exposed to like Western media.
Man, and that one of the things you brought up brought us into our next point, but I can't go there yet because we gotta dive into this a little bit better. Like, it's interesting because again, like you're dealing with these subtle but not so subtle, like very fucking irritating things that cause you to have to live your life differently, including not eating food that's good. Like that's what a travesty, you know?
Yeah. Oof.
Like the things that people take from you, like food. No.
There's only one thing good that they had was like hot dogs with cheese inside, like stuffed with cheese. That was acceptable for me at the age of like 8 to like 13. I'm like, all right, this is better than this this rice and curry that I'm eating. This is gourmet.
Gourmet.
Your mom defrosted these for you today, and she cooked them for you today. Nice.
Oh
I'm
my
eating leftovers
god.
from 3 days ago that tastes better every day, but I don't
Oh
want
my
that because
God.
I want what the white kids are having.
You don't even defrost those fucking things. You could like leave those out. Those will survive like a nuclear war. That's not real food, man. Nothing in that decomposes or like that'll stay forever. Oh my god.
God.
Stomach hurt.
I gotta go.
Thanks for tuning in, folks.
Yep. The commentary about like having to fit in though, and how you also kind of started to do your own thing, in certain cases even went like almost the more educational route of like, here's the deal, what you said or did is problematic, and change and we can still be friends, or don't, like you've surrounded yourself with people who haven't really caused you to have to like, have any kind of tension between you as you discuss stuff like this. I'm interested in hearing now again from Ken and Token about the idea that it's starting to feel more acceptable to be Black and to be fully Black. Have you been noticing that or feeling that same thing that Sunny and Rec kind of were describing?
I mean, I think for me, it's hard, I think, to kind of like, when we were talking about code switching, things like that, like, growing up in the way I was raised and just how I guess like my personality developed, a lot of the bullying and a lot of the things, during, middle school and high school, you know, it wasn't necessarily that, a lot of it was because I was black, but the most of it was because I wasn't black enough. Like, why don't you talk? Why don't you talk? Blacker is what was like the biggest thing, and the kids couldn't understand why I didn't, I guess, handle myself in a certain way or act a certain way, and then that made me question, like, well, okay, what am I, how am I supposed to act? Like, is there something I'm missing? It always felt like there's something I'm missing, something I was never taught, or something I was never I didn't get raised up with, and I think that was really hard for me because you know to me, like I said, I'm just me. And it was hard to kind of, when people are like, oh, well, now you're free to be yourself with all this, people saying, oh, it's okay to be black now, or it's trendy to be supporting Black Lives Matter and to be black and stuff like that. And like, to me, I've always felt like I've been me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's hard, is because when people are like, "Oh, it's okay now. Like you can just be who you are. Like like flow freely." And I kind of sit there and I'm like, I have been like that. I've been doing that. I've been me, and that was what was giving me so much trouble in high school, is because I was just me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe other people think there should be a way that I should be acting or behaving or sounding like, or how I should be educated or anything like that. Even in college a little bit, I'd be poked fun at because I'm also Native American. So like, some of my friends would kind of joke and be like, oh, well, they needed to fill the quota, right? They needed to fill that,
Mm.
African American, Native American. They had to get you in there because you're like, you've got that. And again, it's words, and they don't, and these, coming from people I care about and stuff like that, it does hurt. But at the same time, I see where their biases are. I see where why they can think that. It's like, oh, well, of course schools want to have diverse, people from all kinds of walks of life and different backgrounds. But to me, it felt like it kind of devalued the hard work I put in to get there. Like, I was a straight A student.
Man,
I
not
worked
even
really
kind
hard.
of.
Yeah, like it just devalued a lot of the hard work and the scholarships I worked for. And some of it had to do too with like my mom being a single parent, and kind of the sort of financial situation there. But I earned scholarships, I got good grades, I got awards at school, stuff like that, because I worked hard for me and for like my future. But it along the way, it always felt like someone was saying, well, you're not doing what you should be doing, you're not getting the grades maybe you should be doing, or like getting, or you're not getting into school because you're just you doing you, being you. I think that was really hard. So bringing it back to like, do you feel like you can be more authentically you? I feel like I have been, and maybe not so much on social media, because usually I'm pretty like reserved and quiet. But I think after our discussion before, you and me, like, it felt like, okay, you know what, like, just because I tell somebody to like fuck off, like, okay, if I lose followers because of it, like, great, like, cool, like, now I don't have to worry about those people. And like, Rec, seeing Rec just go after things and just do what she does, and I'm like, I love that even like inspired me a little bit more to just like not give a shit about what other people think. So I think I have been me, but I'm even being more me outwardly, and I think that's kind of my experience, at least with that. So
That's awesome. The like feeling pretty confident in who you feel you are is great. Being able to feel like you can see some of what else is going on here, like with Rec doing her thing, Sunny doing her thing, like you can kind of speak out a little bit more. I think that's great. I think a lot of what you talked about in there, I was seeing, even just kind of glancing over at chat, that so many people can relate to that experience of, you're not this enough, you're too much this. There's that extra scrutiny on you of like how you're supposed to be, who you're supposed to act like. And it's just, it's such bullshit. You know, that plus the microaggressions of like, you got this because like
Yeah.
that's the stuff that we're not facing. That's the stuff that like white people are spared, you know? And I got that only from people who already knew I was Mexican, because like no one looks at me and is like, a person that is, you know, Mexican or Latin or whatever. Like that's, you're blinded by the glare off my skin immediately. There's no question about it. Rec wants to laugh at me. It is what it is. So like that's always been something I've been able to just step away from, is like if I don't tell them, they don't know, then jokes they make, like that'll always be directed to other people, not me, you know. But going back to that idea of just like having to check yourself and feeling at least a little bit more emboldened and not having to do that, are you feeling kind of a similar change in what's going on now, Ken? You know, you're talking about feeling a little bit more like Black is being acceptable, or is acceptable now, is being even, you know, praised and brought up more.
Well, I think you can see it through social media and marketing. Like every EA sports trailer has some form of hip hop or rap like in it there. Commercials, like it's so marketable right now and it's so trendy. And I think that's helped boost a lot of it being even more accepted, you know, unfortunately to the deaths that we've had to face over the last few months. Um, but I mean, like personally, I feel like I've always had like a tight knit group of folks that I feel comfortable talking with, both in the game space as well as outside of that. Through that through that private school experience, I probably have 2 or 3 friends that are white that I still keep in touch with. I actually went to one of their weddings last year. I still consider him to be like a best friend, but we can like have that conversation. Um, so I think kind of just going back to it, I think it's people still feel comfortable discussing and retweeting and liking and using their social media platforms to learn a little bit more about what's going on and what has happened in the history of this country. Um, and I've been trying to like do my part in the same way of like educating folks while I'm streaming. I have commands that are set up. Here are some things so I don't have to like repeat myself over and over again, because I did have to have conversation with some friends about I'm probably your only Black friend that you're reaching out
Right.
to about this, yet you're not the only person that's reaching out to me as well. It's like I compare it to like the help desk, where everyone thinks that it's that one-to-one relationship where you have hundreds of other people that you're supporting at the same time, and you know, your energy gets drained in that fashion.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a big problem that I've been having too, is that everyone's just like, oh, you just had this trauma of like watching a Black man get murdered. Let me ask you a billion questions in the DMs, because surely I'm the only one messaging you right now in this trying time. And it's like, no, you're actually like the 57th person. Can you please stop?
You know, I like I found it kind of, you know, I had friends reach out to me both on like social media, my friends like from college, from high school that I've known for forever, like reach out to me, and it was a little comforting to know that they were thinking of me in particular, because like I said, out of all these friend groups and all these people I know, like I mean, that's kind of where my namesake coming from, is that token guy. Like I was, you know, the only, you know, person of color in those groups, and you know, there was some comfort in knowing people were there to support me. But
Yeah.
what kind of hurt, I think, the most was that their questions, their messages to me were, are you being safe, like in the with the protests and stuff? Is it happening around you? Is there anything
Yeah.
like going on? I didn't get one person. Well, I shouldn't say one person. I got some people that were like, you know, if you need to talk, you know, stuff like that, whatever. Like, I know this is hard, like tough, but the majority of the people that reached out to me were like, oh, I'm glad you're being safe, and like, you know, the
Mhm.
protests and stuff like that. Like, I know it's crazy over there. like whatever, like let me know if you need anything or whatever. It wasn't like, anything of, how can I be better, or how can I help you help propel this movement, and or anything like that, that was more centered around like actually making a change or actually doing something in their own lives to fix things. And that was the most hurtful thing, I think, was that it was more about, was I safe from from my people doing all this, and being so upset and enraged about the murder of George Floyd. Like, it was more about like, oh, is your house on fire? No, it's not. Okay, great. Like, hopefully it stays that way. And like, that was like hard for me to, of course I took it as like, I get it, they're reaching out, like they're trying, but I think the point wasn't there. And that was like really, I think, the most upsetting and the most disappointing thing for me personally, was like no one really got it, So
Man, I mean, that's such an important point, because the whole reason we started this series was for all of the missed points, for all of this stuff, for all of the white people especially who are unaware of the racism within us. So we're not taking that extra step to say, like, what is my role in this? What is my part? What am I supposed to be doing here? And the few who have kind of gone that route still tended to reach out to the few Black people they knew and ask them how to do it. Like, what am I supposed to do? How do I help here? Instead of trying to go out and hit the Google machine.
Something I thought of when Ken, you were speaking last, was maybe more as a slight counter argument. I feel like Black culture has been celebrated in the States for a very long time, but not Black people. Like I think the music, the just the shows, maybe the attitude, the way of walk, like just the way
braids.
of like how Black people do, like has been celebrated. Very much same way with like there was something that I saw recently that's been trending with the yoga girls. Turmeric lattes. We're like, oh, turmeric is good for you now. Like, Indians have been doing that for fucking centuries. Like,
But have you heard of yoga?
like
Because Gwyneth Paltrow brought that to the States. I don't know.
I've never heard of yoga. Are you talking about the ancient meditative art that's been going on in India for the last like thousands of years?
It can't be. She's not that old.
Paltrow did that?
Wow, what a pioneer!
Time travel, it's a thing,
Oh my god. That is an important distinction to make, though. The culture versus the people, like, and that is absolutely fair. Because what is the law that was just starting to get passed? The Crown laws.
Oh my god!
Did y'all see that today?
Yes, I did.
No, I've been.
It's more laws against hair discrimination for like especially braids and protective styles and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that we need that at all is already irritating.
Absolutely. But like, that's another one of those like fucked up disparities, is that like, if I go on vacation and come back with my hair braided, everyone's like, oh my god, look, it's so cute, and it would look stupid as fuck on me, but they'd be like, wow, this is so great. But like, y'all can't go to work like that without getting in trouble sometimes,
It's seen as exotic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound like an asshole, but it is hilarious to me when folks come back with those hairstyles and then like in a week they have a sunburn on their scalp.
Yep.
Oh man, you see a lot of those disaster videos and like pictures on the internet of like white women getting those like box braids or protective styles, and then like weeks later being like, I don't understand, why is my hair coming out? Like, maybe you took something that wasn't yours, bud.
That was like a hot topic a couple years ago with like the boxer braids, and how like the Kardashians made that such a stylized look, but then it's frowned upon when anyone of Black descent had. I can't remember who the other person was that was engaged in that, but just kind of seeing like there's two pictures side by side, and it's like this one can be covered in like top style magazines, while the other person was just seen as like ghetto, essentially.
Ratchet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or like
So-
I've known a lot of white people who have gotten dreads and like have had no issues because of it, like in their personal lives and in jobs and stuff like that, you know. But like that's still something that we were just talking last week, or not last week because it's been a minute, but last time about that wrestler who had to cut his.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It was
Fucked
a high
up.
school student, right?
Yeah.
It was a high
Yeah.
school student.
Yep.
Ugh.
That's super fucked up. And this, do you all, by the way, to before we keep going, do y'all have another half an hour or so to continue on with our discussions?
Yeah.
Awesome. So this kind of perfectly leads us, especially because there were a few points of it from like everyone's story so far. This perfectly leads us into one of the other points that we had, which was talking about people who are fighting to keep racist brands and individuals. So like we talked about how now like the culture may have been kind of being marketed and, you know, vultured, one might say, for a long time, but now suddenly there's this additional resurgence, and along with that were some brands and people like hitting it on the head and being like, damn, we've got to do more. We've been doing X, but we've got to do more. And they stepped up. And there were some brands that I would say missed the mark, is being very kind and generous.
Yeah.
So if there's anything any of y'all would like to discuss about that notion of some of these brands and how it feels to see people kind of campaigning for them or fighting to keep these brands, or the individuals representing just terrible views or lack of views.
Okay, so before that, I'm also thinking of like brands that are just now getting around to dropping or changing product names after all this time. I think that was what initially made me do that point. But yeah, like for example, the Aunt Jemima brand, if you don't know the full history of it, you have all of Google. But basically
all of it.
they had like, what was it? Like nearly like 200 years to change the fucking name. And they're only doing it because of the movement and people just like having like enough backing to push PepsiCo into changing the name. 'Cause I think they're the owners now. They weren't always the owners, but like they're the majority brand owner now. And it's like, yo, y'all been could have done that, because you've gone and changed like the woman on the bottle, like the image from the original person that was the inspiration for the art initially. So if you made it that far, you could have gone further and changed the name of the product. You're still gonna sell your shit ass syrup. It's like not even syrup. It's just like you're still gonna sell it, but you know, not until being black is trendy did they want to change that.
Yeah, I wonder if that was just a move of like, let's get all up in this publicity that's happening here. We'll do this change that doesn't really change much, you know, in terms of the grand scheme of things, and in like all of the things that are kind of going on in wake of what happened to Breonna Taylor. All of the lip service that's been paid when the real change hasn't happened yet, you know? Like
Right.
that's some ridiculous shit. I didn't know it was PepsiCo, by the way. I didn't know that.
I think that they are the current like overall umbrella company for the brand right now. That they weren't always that. It's like fairly recent, like maybe within like the past like 20 years.
So like when that change was announced, what was all of your thoughts on it when you saw that hit your feed that day and you were like, "Oh, okay."
I mean, for me, it's kind of like, oh, that was still that way. Like that's still like that was like why? Kind of like Rex said, like, oh, it took you it like now you decide to do it now after like, you know, our long history of of complete injustice, and it just takes one extra person to die. Like, oh, okay, now, well, we've hit like, you know, however many people to die. I guess this is the mark where we should probably do something about, you know, our racist branding or whatever. Like, in kind of like that's how I feel about, and I'm you know jumping ahead a little bit, but like that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the branding and like even like Twitch and stuff like that. Like oh, we have to support our, our Black creators, or branding saying, oh, we have to sign more people to our brand so that we can, have a diverse clientele or whatever. And it's
Right.
just like, okay, why weren't you doing that before? Like, someone had to die for you to start doing that? Like, Twitch gives, Black creators a week or something like that during like Martin Luther King week or whatever, and they're like, here, have your week, enjoy. And it's like, I
Yeah.
see creators on the front page. It's not like I never see, Black creators on the front page or anything, but it's like, why does it have to be like, and I tweeted about this, like, why does it have to wait? Why do we have to wait for something really bad to happen for people to open their eyes and say, oh, we should probably be doing more? Like, why are we not always doing more? And it's not just like, Black creators, but female creators, or
Mhm.
you know all the different groups that they could be representing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I guess we'll give you a week, or we'll give you this or whatever. Like, oh, it's relevant now, like, yeah, let's get them, yeah, let's show off how much we care. And it's just like, it leaves a really bad taste in my mouth personally, about like, oh, well, why would I care that you're doing this because you don't do it any other time when it actually does matter, which is should be always,
Right.
So
So no satisfaction in the seeing of the bottle change.
I mean, I'm glad they're changing it, but it's like, there needs to be like that should have happened already, or like they need to just, like, people need to be woke earlier, and then like
Set
only
the
woke
alarm.
when, like, only woke when it's convenient to be woke.
Right.
Like, it's not about, it's just, yeah, it's convenient for them now because, like I said, it's trendy. It's like, oh, it's, a big topic of discussion this year, and with everything going on, like, we need to do better. But it's like,
Black people are cool now.
Yep.
Yep.
It's like, how can we corner the market? It's I feel like most companies have kind of used it as a boosting platform, to attract more people, saying, hey, we're doing this now, so you should buy our brand. Like, aside from the Aunt Jemima bottle, which I didn't know was still marketed. Like, I don't remember ever seeing that
Yes.
in recent years, like on shelves
I
when I
live in
saw the
Canada.
story.
We just go to the backyard and tap a tree.
Yeah, we've got
Like,
the organic stuff.
Most
You have to
organic.
sing "O Canada" before you tap the tree, though,
Yes.
right? That's the law.
gotta tease the tree a little bit.
Right.
Oh, Canada.
Oh.
Awkward. Sorry about that. But I think one of the brands that I've seen that has been doing the most is Ben and Jerry's.
Mhm.
They have been very thorough in what they've been sharing. And I know that the Justice remix limited edition had come out before in the past too. But just looking at kind of like their Instagram posts that they've been sharing, and how they've been educating people on this, and saying like, we're pulling our ads from Facebook because X, Y, and Z. I can't remember the reasons specifically right now, but when you see that it's more than just something performative, and it's like, all right, this is something that I'd like to see from more companies, instead of just a copy pasta of what they saw some other company post and say, we stand for our Black staff and all Black people everywhere, and
Mhm.
Oh.
follow us and
Yeah.
stuff. And so it's, when you see that kind of like performative, they had like a black square on their social media for like a day or two, and then just went right back
Mhm.
to product, without kind of like saying, hey, these folks still haven't seen justice for losing their lives. Yeah, it's tough to see that a lot. But yeah, there are definitely some diamonds in the rough, I could say, that are out there too in regards to the brands.
Mhm.
Sonny, I know you've been rocking out with some Ben and Jerry's lately.
Man, I was rocking out with Ben and Jerry's before, but just learning some of the things that I learned, I've gained about 15.
What a great way to do it, though, honestly.
Wow.
So
And
speaking more on like all of
5 of
the, there's 5 of you?
in this household,
Mhm.
sometimes 9. So at any given time, there's 9 pints of Ben and Jerry's in this house.
That's some
Damn.
risky stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be dangerous for me. Yeah, I'm feeling suddenly very relieved that I only have the one guy who, you know, mostly tries to just stock up on stuff to make quesadillas.
Yep.
Mine is like one man but four people, so
Yeah, you can smash some dillas, man.
oh my.
So like keeping on the subject of the brands and everything, like there's some that are doing things that feel very performative. There's some that are doing things that should have fucking been done a long time ago, and it's ridiculous that, you know, it took this long. And then there are some that are just like not saying shit. What is your feeling on that when you see some of these larger brands? And like honestly, I used to work with them, but I don't anymore. So I'm definitely more than happy to bring up G Fuel as a great example of a bad example.
God.
For me, honestly, the crazy thing, let me say this, and y'all can either take it how you take it or take it how you take it. White people been noticing shit more than like me. I'm not gonna speak for nobody else, but I don't pay attention to them most of the time anyway, because they ain't never did nothing for me.
Mm.
Like the brand, and not to say, oh, I'm entitled, I deserve to be, celebrated, because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't see them as diverse anyway, so I didn't expect them to say anything in the first place.
Yep.
So
I
no
think a lot of
surprise.
Especially with G Fuel, because you've seen who they work with
Yeah.
consistently, who have had and still have problems with multiple groups, whether it's Black people and POCs, LGBTQ plus, like even like Jewish people. Like they've been having problems consistently, and G Fuel's just like, yep, sign you on for another year. Good work out there,
Yep.
buddy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like,
yeah, I didn't expect shit from them.
yeah, I didn't expect shit from G Fuel. Like, they got a couple black dudes, I think.
Pushing
I don't
codes
even
though.
know.
Mm.
But, as far as black women go, they didn't do nothing for me. So I was just like, I didn't really care if they said anything or if they didn't, because I didn't use their products.
And I think also when there was a lot of posts that were first going out, there was a lot of rush to, well, why isn't this company saying anything, or why isn't this company saying anything? And I feel like if you have to pull teeth with companies, it's not going to come out genuine, and you're just
Mm-hmm.
going to get some like forced answer, and you'll probably be even more disappointed with that. Or if you're not fully invested and you're not seeing this company say something, you're like, all right, well, whatever. So I think that was kind of a thing too, where you had
Mm-hmm.
like smaller, all different sized companies that had posted out, maybe like a week afterwards, and then you saw this just uptick in all these other companies. Like, oh, hey, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's go ahead and just slap our brand on it. And I think I'd shared with everyone earlier. There was that thread where there's pretty much like a cut and paste of like,
Mm-hmm.
dear brand in brackets XYZ, and fill
Mhm.
in, put your logo here. And then in that thread, there's just a bunch of companies that look like they followed that format to a T. Um, so yeah, it's really interesting to kind of see which companies posted that initially and which ones are actually kind of putting action behind it and saying,
Mm-hmm.
we're supporting this group, or here are some things that you can use as resources to educate yourself better, to kind of alleviate the stress from everyone having to respond to all the text messages and direct
Mm-hmm.
messages and things like that. So um, yeah, it was interesting to see kind of like what the pressure did to companies as well, and what the responses were.
And I think that like if these companies gave a shit about diversity and that was their core values in the first place, it wouldn't even be a question of like where their loyalties lie or like of them making a statement or anything. Like we already expect these companies to, you know, even if they said something a few days later or whatever, like at least we'd already know, like, oh, this company hires, you know, a lot of their higher ups are persons of color or something maybe we don't get that internal view of them, but it's like you would expect, like we're saying, we expect some things from G Fuel and things like that, and like in terms of expecting nothing. But
Right.
like some of these other companies, if they are really committed to diversity, committed to, you know, lifting up you know, minorities and people of color and you know, different types of communities, then they would already be doing that. It would already be happening. And it wouldn't be a question of like, oh, are they going to say anything? Are they going to start hiring more, you know, black people to to fill like some sort of like empty void that they have in their current company, that they're like, oh, I see we're a very racist company, let's get more like black people to show that we're not racist. Like that's like, you should have already been doing that. Like that's, don't like, you know, hindsight 2020 it and say, oh, oh God, look at our, you know, our population is like 99%, you know, white people or white males or whatever. Like
Right.
you should have, this is like, I mean, I say like it's 2020, you should be, but like it is, it's like how many years do we have to keep going back and forth of like, oh, this company has just like, you know, one, you know, I pun intended, token black person in their company, like he's, you know, he's the face of the company. Like, are you just putting his face there to put his face there because you want to show how diverse you are, but like secretly you hire, like he's the only one you've hired that's a person of color and everyone else is like, you know, a white male or whatever. Like I'm just like, I'm not surprised by companies anymore. And even my own, like that I work for, it's like they put out a statement of like, you know, we support Black Lives Matter or whatever. But when I go to work, it's like I see that your diversity isn't top of your, you know, your list there. And it's like that's telling in and of itself, you know? So
Right.
Okay, for super quick sidecar here, segue here. I remember Doc and Jaws talking about how y'all were hanging out once. I forget where you were. You were going shopping somewhere, or you were at an event, or you were hanging out, and they kept calling you token while they were in the store, and then they suddenly were like, "Oh, we need to not do that. This is not gaming space. This
we're
suddenly feels weird."
At a restaurant, they're like,
Bruh.
"Token, what do you want to drink?" And it's just like, you know, we all evaluated that situation. We're like, you know what, this looks from the outside eye really, really, really bad, but like, you know, to us it's completely different. But yeah, it's just definitely an oof moment for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah,
The same thing as my previous roommate calling me Brownie. Like he'd call me Brownie, and I'd call him. This was agreed upon beforehand. Like I love him, but so he'd call me Brownie. I'd call him something I will not repeat on stream in Russian. And so that's how we addressed each other. Like
Okay.
like yeah, because he's from Ukraine, so he taught me a little Russian. And he went out and met some of his friends for drinks, and he was calling me Brownie in front of them. They were all like, "Dude, you can't say that." So I played this. I'm like, "Wait, why can't he say that?" Because that's race. I'm like, "Wait, really?"
Oh my god. Asking questions is like a surefire way to make people uncomfortable. It's one of my favorite things to do. Oh my god.
It's so entertaining.
Oh my god, I brought us so far away from the original point, but it was just so funny he mentioned the name thing. Okay. So, you know, keeping in mind that like a lot of the reason we were having these discussions wasn't for the purpose of, you know, Black people to come in here and be educated on their own experiences, right? This, like we talked about, how a lot of the people that show up to diversity panels already know, right? So we're hoping to have conversations here and get people who are not already aware of a lot of this stuff. So in keeping with our conversation about brands and everything, would it be fair to say at this point that this is like another one of those steps in anti-racism, is to start looking into all of the brands that you support? And frankly, you know, we talked about how some of these brands work with very problematic individuals, to do a little more due diligence into the people and the brands that you support to see how they're doing with diversity, not just to like, see if they, you know, put out a statement. But to take it another step further and like actually look into reviews of the company or structure, look into any kinds of examples like that. Like, do you feel like that is probably something that everyone should be doing very deliberately?
I think it's just like levels to it. Like for
Yeah.
the gaming space, I think I put out a message like maybe earlier this week saying that like it's really easy to tell who a company doesn't support. Like it tells more about the company who they're not supporting
Right.
than who is on their pages.
Mm.
So if you do a quick scroll of like I'm gonna throw Aver Media, or you do a quick scroll of Corsair, like it's all white dudes with a beard. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's not a woman on there, or if there is, she's still white.
Mm.
There's no person of color usually on those pages. That's an easy scroll. For other
Mhm.
things like household items and stuff, you can just put the brand name in like Wikipedia, and I'm pretty sure they will tell you plenty. If you don't trust the words on the page, just go to the sources at the bottom. Like you can find the history of a company very easily. It's not hard.
Mm.
Right.
So it would be beneficial for all of us white people, all of us non-black people, to start paying a lot more attention to the brands that we support. Do that quick scan. And just to clarify, can you get to Wikipedia from Google?
Yes, I believe you can.
You
Okay.
can also use Bing.
Wikipedia.
Bing! Oh my god, you and your
Bing.
fucking
Bing.
this fucking guy loves Bing so
Time out.
much.
Keyword
points.
Wikipedia.
But
How to
Greg was also
install
saying, like,
Google Chrome.
it comes in levels, and I think like you can't, like, we can't be all like, you don't have enough diversity for like a startup that started in the bumfuck middle of nowhere in a
Mm.
town full of white people, right?
Mhm.
Like we
Yep.
can't, like, there's no other people around, you know, who are they going to hire? But then I think we can talk about diversity in a way when it's like there are patterns to them screening hiring people, or
Mhm.
in terms of the gaming space, sponsoring people who are people of color.
Mhm.
You know, you go through the pages and you'll see very clearly that they're not supporting any of these types of people. And it's not about, oh, well, we don't see enough of this type of creator, or we don't see enough of this type. Like they're there. You just don't want to see them.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that's all it is.
Right.
But I think it's important that people should add this more general life tip anyways now, because we're moving into like just like people should be looking at the companies that they're buying things from, because the way we're at right now with consumerism is just so easy to like buy something at your own convenience, like whatever's easiest to get delivered. And so more general, like look at where you're getting your things from, who you're supporting, where you're buying things from. Like some things you can't avoid buying from Amazon, but
Right.
sometimes you can, there's local, buy local, and see if there's any small business you can support. Like that's
Or
one
you-
way to start helping like communities and people of color communities too.
Or you can start the other direction and just look for the black owned version of whatever item that you have.
I
Was
have
a Band-Aid
seen
that put out like the like, oh, we've got darker skin things one right now, and somebody's like, oh, by the way, I've been doing this for fucking years.
Yeah, I was about to
And I'm
say
like,
they stole that idea from a black woman. More on that at 11. But years ago, this woman came up with the idea for more skin tone options for plasters or band-aids. And recently Band-Aid stole that. And a different bandage company originally stole from her too. So like there's been multiple companies stealing this idea of hers and acting like they never got inspiration for any of this. Like you guys have been making band-aids for like 155 years, and in 2020 you just decided, oh yeah, not everyone is the flesh colored crayon Crayola.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know that they stole that. I only saw that that they had started doing a different range of skin tones for the bandages. And like that's another one of those things that like white people don't really have to experience. You know, if you go buy something that says that it's nude or skin colored, the majority of times it is your skin color that it matches. But then you see everyone else's skin tone, and it's like, hold on, wait a minute, there's more here. What if we made products for everyone? What a fucking idea.
Yeah, like, because that was something we were talking about last time too, right? Like how there's bias in like products and just, I mean, it's everywhere, but that makes me think of this other story, like in the tech field, where there was a company that was making like, you know, like automatic dispensers, the ones that you like stick your hand over the sensor and like it dispenses soap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, apparently they had nobody darker than a sunburn at that place. So when they installed the dispensers for wider testing,
So the darker than a sunburn is perfect. I don't know if I've ever heard that before.
any person of color, and I mean any Black, Indian, Asian, any were not able to get the soap out of the dispenser if they had their hand like palm down. The
They
sensor
tested using a slice of bread and a lobster for people's hand. They're like, all right, we need to detect between these two.
Is that why you started laughing so hard? You're picturing that?
Because when white people get sunburned, they just go like pink or red. They don't get.
There's no in between.
Yeah, so it's.
So yeah, I mean that story is years old. I mean it's not hard. You can Google and figure it out. But
or Bing it.
or Bing it.
You can ask
make sure that
at your leisure.
Jeez.
But yeah,
just gotta make sure that they know they can search somewhere. That's all. That
was something else we were talking about too, like how we gotta freaking bring facts to everything. It's like,
right,
bruh.
Or
I'm not making this story up. I have nothing to gain from making any of this shit up. I'm nothing to gain for none of that. You have everything to gain by unlocking your phone, opening your web browser, and typing google.com. And
is it HTTP or HTTPS?
If you're using HTTP in 2020, there's no fucking saving you. Not even a redirect.
Don't look at my announcements ever.
I see your announcements and oh my god. It hurts my soul.
I do it just because you told me not to. I hope you know that. Every single day I type that shit out. A long time ago you told me that. So every single day that I go live, I type it out, and every single day I'm like, just a little.
I feel like I told you that because in relation to like the birthday act, because I had certs on it that wouldn't work for HTTP because I wasn't gonna redirect anybody. But anyways,
possible.
That's hilarious. I don't remember that shit.
Yeah, there's in regards to that topic too, where there's just like no thought process going behind things, even with as recent as the Snapchat filter for Juneteenth.
Oh
I don't know if you all saw that.
Fucking god, dude. They have nobody black at Snapchat. They have nobody of color at Snapchat. Nobody was up there being like, yo, bros, this is a bad idea. Nobody.
Can we give context of what it was?
Holy shit.
I'm gonna let Rhett tell this.
Bro. Okay, so Juneteenth, if you don't know what Juneteenth is, I will still direct you to Ask Jeeves. I don't have time for you today.
Go into Mozilla Firefox, type in askjeeves.https.
Zilla, yeah.
Yes. So they dropped the filter for Juneteenth that basically it put the user in front of the screen where in the background there's like a flag flying and some chains, right? And it prompts you to smile at the camera to break the chains.
Yeah.
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 If I ever get this to podcast form, LR left. If I ever make this, actually get this out into podcast form, I'm gonna add more silence to that. Like it needs more silence for everyone to fully understand how fucking terrible that is. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So they were gonna leave it until someone finally decided to check the Snapchat Twitter and they realized, oh shit, this is not what Juneteenth's about. Hold up, bros. Let me push an update.
Oh my god.
And they took it down a couple hours later.
All right, so they found the same marketing advertisement department that did GameStop. GameSpot.
Yeah.
stuff?
Oh my
Oh,
god,
shit.
Is that-
we
is
talked
that
about
what they
that
did?
last week, didn't we? Or last
What
time?
happened?
It just
There's another.
happened.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
wait,
they
there's
did
a different one?
Yes.
Oh
Another one.
no!
Again.
Oh, it's so
Oh
bad.
shit! Here we go again.
Oh my god.
Play
They
yourself.
they had like some kind of event, right, that they were promoting. So on the image they used in the tweet, it was something about breathing, right? And like the text of the tweet was just like everyone's breath matters or some fuck shit. I don't know. Something really stupid to relate to breathing. 3 weeks from George Floyd. All right.
Bruh.
I'm gonna find this shit so I can
Please,
get the actual words because I know
please
someone's
do.
gonna come after me.
Although fuck shit sounds like a great way to describe all of it. And while
It's
you're
fuck
looking
shit.
that up, like the idea that Snapchat doesn't have any black people on staff, like again, like as a very white person, like I've never had any issues with using Snapchat. And I remember being at TwitchCon a few years ago. Which was the one where we had the outdoor, we were at the like outdoor, the boat, the fair, all the crazy rides and shit.
That was probably San Diego.
Yes, that spot. I remember standing outside with Sanders. I don't know if y'all know Solid Sanders, but he's fucking amazing. And I pulled out Snapchat, and at the time filters were still like way more entertaining. Like I actually used them. And I opened up one of the ones thinking like this is gonna be funny because I love putting like the small faces on people and just having them be all like teeny tiny and be like little deer and stuff. And I pulled up my phone to do that with Sanders, and he's like, bitch, it's not gonna pick me up. I'm black and it's dark out. Like the app it's not gonna see me. And I was like, it's this what? No. So like we turned the light on and he's like, oh yeah, it's not just that it's dark out. I'm also black. It's not gonna see me. Like the filters just would not work on him, even with the additional like light.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Did you find it?
I'm almost there.
Did you
Keep
have to
going,
ask
though.
Jeeves?
It should have put
Yes.
the S in front of the HTTP.
You put the S behind the HTTP.
I don't wake up Jeeves at this time of night.
Oh my god. Well, while we're looking up this horrible fuck shit, now would be a great time for everyone in chat because we're gonna have to start wrapping things up relatively soon. So anyone in chat, if you have any questions, ask now. I think I just saw Bossy come back and they have access to the doc. We can always give more moderators access to this for next time. But feel free to ask any questions of this lovely crowd we have here. We'll go through those next. So this is the same company that did the like we're gonna stop posting on social media for.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that was GameSpot, like the article site. GameStop had their moment. This.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
they decided to take turns.
Yeah, they tried to take turns. Like, oh, like
I
you guys don't use the T. Oh, we use the T. It's our turn. Yeah. So I'm gonna drop this link in chat so everyone else can see this. But the tweet reads before they deleted it. GameStop says every breath counts this week on twitch.tv/GameStop. And the name of the segment is Oxygen Not Included.
How hard is it to say Black Lives Matter? Because I guarantee, like, the people who probably made that post were probably like the white higher ups. Were like, yes, this sounds right. Yes, let's push
this
it. through."
slaps. Let's go.
This is what the kids would say is lit. Let's do it.
They only
The
took it
youths.
down because, again, like Snapchat, somebody decided to check the corporate Twitter and realized the comments were on fucking fire, and they deleted it. I mean, at least they deleted it faster than Snapchat did. Jesus.
So when I initially saw it, I didn't know what the hell Oxygen Not Included was, but it's actually a game. It's like some survival game. But
Game?
yeah, it's a game.
The game in and of itself is brilliant. So I feel bad for the devs getting dragged into this because the
Oh
kind
my
of like
God.
shit that they might have felt like they were just chilling. Like Oxygen Not Included devs were just doing their own thing, like making cute games, and then GameStop's like, we're gonna just ruin things for you for a little bit.
I said, hold my beer,
I would-
basically.
This is the time to push your game right
Oh
now.
my god.
Fuck
Yeah.
out of here.
I mean, like, it's one thing to be like promoting the game. Like, they couldn't have been more thoughtful in like giving more context. Like, hey, come join us for a show about a game created by these people that goes by this name. Like, how
Yeah.
hard would that have been?
I'm sorry. Are you asking a corporation who's based
No,
in
you're right.
Texas
You're right.
To use sense.
to use common sense at a higher level above their retail location?
Where's my clown paint? I'm sorry. You're right.
You're
100%.
absolute clown shoes.
Oh, man.
Oh my fuck.
See the Curb Your
Unbelievable.
Enthusiasm.
Oh my god, I
saying
love
whatever.
that audio. I love that show so much. Oh my fuck. Okay, well, Jesus. I think that's a great horrific stopping point before we go on to some questions here. So let's see.
I'm sorry. Lack of oxygen.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
not bored.
Ugh.
I'm not bored. I promise.
So Anti-Carry asked, because black culture has been celebrated more than black people, would this technically be a form of tokenism? Someone brought up hip-hop music being in NBA games earlier, and I kind of feel that doing something like that could be seen like patronization if I want to take it to the absolute extreme.
Well, I think it's a lot of, if you like dive into some of those games, like they'll have a lot of those artists featured that they like within the game itself. I think that was me. I'm pretty sure it was me that brought that up about the culture being celebrated through marketing. It's I think from I don't really it I think it's included in the game, but I feel like in the mainstream there are a lot of artists that tend to lean more towards rap and hip hop that are featured in those games. Even in like Madden football, things like that. But then if you go and play like FIFA has more of a global spin to it. So you have a lot of different artists through different genres that are featured there. So I don't know if that's maybe just like something that's primarily here for like sports that are more popular here in the US. So I hope I answered the question in that way. Did that make sense at all?
I was gonna raise my hand and say I'm that kid that also played the NHL games, and that is also what gave me a little bit more depth to my rock knowledge, so I can see that on the other side.
From DMB and
no, thankfully not DMB. Like, but you know, it was like brand new and like other But anyways, there was no rap and hip hop on those games, so like.
I think when I brought up that point, I meant like just maybe in general, like we can't blame video games for like including rap and hip hop. Like it fits the vibe for trailers, movies. That's fine. But then when they go on and showcase that they're only picking and choosing things from different cultures that they want to showcase and not the people as a whole, or when like with with people like the Kardashians appropriating certain types of styles from groups of people and only that and that's all they ever like showcase as being the best parts of cultures, that's when it's a problem. But when you have songs like rap and hip hop and video games, I mean, that's fine.
And I'm not even sure if they were talking about just video games. I think they meant like NBA, like in real life. But I think it's very obvious, at least for us anyways, when it's appropriation versus just the majority of folks who enjoy NBA happen to like hip hop.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an important distinction too, to use the word appropriation versus the question, which was basically, black culture being celebrated more than black people is this tokenism. It's appropriation is kind of where that brought us back to. We can move on to the next question then, I think, unless anyone has anything else they'd like to add to that particular. I almost mixed up specific and particular. Like I tried to create a new word that was a hybrid of the two, and it just like stopped my mouth for a second there. Okay, so the next question. 2 times Tyler asked, what can you do as an employee when you realize your company does not demonstrate any diversity?
I can kind of talk to this a little bit. So like my company, um, you know, a lot of it, without getting into too much detail, a lot of it is like medically driven, and um, I think they work towards, and a lot of the values and the mission is like creating, you know, a way to diversify their patients and like allow for, you know, opportunities for like survival for their patients for all, like, you know, minorities across like the world, kind of thing. So like there, a lot of it is like that is their goal, but like the internal like people that they hire is, there's not a lot of diversity there. And like lately they, I think just with the times, I suppose they're like, we're gonna have a diversity like session where you can come in and ask questions and like this or that. And like unfortunately I haven't been able to, or it's either in the future or they've had them and I haven't been able to attend them. But I think they're on the right track of like seeing like how can we do better. But I think it's hard as an employee to reach the higher ups to say like, hey, you know, I've noticed that you don't have a lot of, you know, people of color in, you know, this
Right.
company, like let's hire some more. And I think it's intimidating to like try to do that, and it's hard to like, you know, break through that barrier. um but I think it's good to at least bring it up, or try to stir a discussion, because other people probably feel the same way. It's probably not just you, but there's probably
Mm-hmm.
other people in the company that are like, hey, we need more, you know, more, you know, people of color in this company to bring, you know, their talents and their ideas here, because right now we have one look and that's not a good look. So I think, you know, just my advice is to just like get involved, or like be able to, you know, create a discussion even with like your management or, you know, your team or whatever, and say like, hey, listen, you know, this has been, you know, it's not just important now just because of everything that's been going on, but I think it's important moving forward for us to like look at the bigger picture and see like what can we do, or how can we, you know, support you, and going forward support other people who are trying to, you know, get employment here or whatever. So you know, keep the discussion going, I think is a big part of it, so that it's never just like forgotten, you know.
Mm-hmm. And especially, you
Yeah.
know, that this is a conversation that people who want to consider themselves allies, like Black people are living with, and people of color, and you know, all the other marginalized groups that are being excluded from a seat at these tables, like they're already tired. We've heard that plenty at this point. So as white allies especially, this is uncomfortable to go to your boss or HR or wherever it might need to go and have that conversation and say, listen, are you aware? You may not have noticed this yet, but are you aware that this company is essentially just white? Like, we need to do better.
Right.
Be one of hopefully many, because if you talk to your coworkers and stuff, you might be able to help create enough of a conversation around this that they will listen and actually take some actions, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
and you might get an answer like, oh, like we haven't seen like anyone meet those qualifications, and it's like, don't let that discourage you, because that's the default canned response
Yep.
for
Right.
everything.
Right.
Just like, oh, nobody who's person of color also meets the criteria for whatever the job description is. That's not true. It just means they haven't looked, or they haven't found the right person yet. That's all there is to it.
Or they haven't given them an actual chance to prove themselves, which I find is one of the things that is really, you know, frustrating. Is like, oh, you know, we have these candidates that might not be right at that level that you need, but you know, a lot of the times you can learn some of these things on the job, and it doesn't take a lot of training and a lot of money to do that, and just giving somebody a chance to is like almost a little bit of the battle that, you know, we kind of face too. So
Right.
um
Yeah, like at
yeah.
least get to the interview. Like,
Yeah, don't just discount somebody, you know, but yeah.
okay, helpful. I think we have probably time for one more question if y'all are good with that. Y'all have the Google Doc. If we can wait for this last one, we can just put a little bar next to whichever one you want to address, unless there's one specifically that you're seeing right now you want to tackle. Oh, and I'm seeing two people kind of asking this a similar question there. How do y'all feel about addressing the final two questions there, essentially, kind of combo style?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So Loxy was asking or saying the discussion on being biracial and feeling as though you're not accepted in each different group. How do you handle that nowadays? I experienced that with my family and friends, unable to penetrate their views. And then Dono kind of followed up with a very similar conversation line there. What would you say the biggest thing people who are biracial, especially black and white, can do to help today's injustice? Any thoughts?
I mean, for like how I feel right now, you know, I do still struggle at times to see where I fit in, kind of thing. It's especially more evident with my family, kind of my in-laws actually, because my wife is also biracial, and you know, when we meet with her dad's side of the family, and you know, a lot of the times, like even you know, a bit when I was first dating her, my father-in-law asked me, he sat down the first time meeting him and said, all right, do you like Tupac or do you like I think it was Clay Aiken or something like that, to like to give me, like, trying to like gauge, I guess, what kind of person I was. And it, like, her parents are separated, but they were both there sitting at like the table, kind of like drilling me, and that was like one of the first questions he asked me, and I remember being like, I have no idea how to respond to this appropriately. Like, clearly he wants some type of response from me, and she's looking at me like this, and I just, like, I remember that so vividly, and being like, all right, what do I do? So, and I can't remember how I answered or whatever, but
You totally said Clay Aiken.
I did. I'm pretty
I
sure
want a
said
Clay Aiken cover of Tupac, please.
Oh God, no.
And so I think now I'm trying to just be authentic with whatever I am. I try to just be who I am in any like sphere that I'm involved in, whether that's on Twitch, on Twitter, whatever the case may be. In my daily life, I like I said, try to be authentically me, and I think that's it's been hard at times, but I think that it gets easier as the more I just don't give a shit about what other people think. I think that's a little bit easier, but to answer sort of the second part about, like, being biracial, and being able to speak out and support the Black Lives movement, like, or Black Lives Matter movement. Sorry, words. It's, I think, being accepting like who you are and like what makes you you, and saying like, hey, this is a part of me. I can't change that. I can't change the history. I'm learning, like, almost every other month, like, I'll sit down and talk to my mom about like stories that like my dad would tell her about, like, like like his side of the family, and like things I was like amazed by that I never knew about. And going back generations, and it's like, that's my history, that's who I am. I can't change that. I don't want to change it. I'm learning more and more about me, and through even just like through everything going on, I'm being educated even about my own history. And I think that's a thing too, is like, go to Google, like Rec likes to say, go to Google, educate yourself, learn, like, you know what what you're about, and learn what everyone else is about, and just try to bridge that gap as somebody who's from kind of two worlds, and bridge that in a way that, like, people can understand, and also can just support and get behind. I think it's sort of not your responsibility, but it's part of like your taking guess it is taking responsibility in pushing that forward and pushing the movement forward in that way, in your own way. So
yeah, that's a great point. And like, I think this has been something that like people who know me well have known that this has been a challenging thing for me to deal with as well, given that I'm half Mexican and I was raised by a white family, and it's been very much that, like, the first part of my life, I will absolutely admit, like, I just let so many things slide. It was like, what's the point? I would say that's racist, and they would just say, no, it's not a racism thing, it's just a culture thing. Like, we talked about that, I think, even one of the last times that we were talking. Like, I don't think that black people and white people should date because it's not racism, it's just culture, So my sister and I, and like my brother, I remember growing up, like, we would call out stuff, but it didn't do anything. So there came a certain point where I think we, like a lot of other people, were just like, that's just the crazy old uncle, or, oh, they're just old, or whatever. And we excuse and we justify and we allow some pretty terrible behavior as a result of it. So especially for me being, Hispanic and white, especially because I'm white presenting, like everyone sees, I understand that I have that additional privilege, and I now see just how many opportunities I could have been taking to use the fact that people listen to me to say some more important shit, So if you're also biracial and you're feeling like you're kind of in the middle, it's unfortunate that there has to even be kind of a two sides to this, but make them listen, It's going to be tough, and certain conversations are going to make your family uncomfortable, or your friends, or the people who you see, but these are really necessary conversations to be having. And in terms of being able to walk that line, like, Token said, it's not necessarily your responsibility, but it kind of almost is, right? Especially for those of us who benefit from white privilege, Like, if you are white passing and you don't see that does help you, like, hopefully this kind of clears that up. Like, there's a little bit extra we can do to use that privilege to speak on these things, from my perspective. Any other thoughts?
I'm just Indian. And we kind of hate each other, so I mean, that in and of itself is a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that too a little bit. Like, just that's something that I know, like, the non-black communities, but communities of color, like, there's still a lot of racism in there too. So if you are watching and we're talking about anti-racism here, know that just because you are Asian or Mexican or whatever, like, you're also gonna have to check this stuff. Like, it's in all of us. We've got to do our part.
Yep.
Well, thank you all for joining for today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
This was good stuff. Sonny, you're the us. They're the ones that we can say, like, oh, thank you for joining us. Like, you're the us there. I appreciate that you jumped into, like, you too. Enjoy your movie, you too. Enjoy your meal, you too.
Happy birthday. Happy
You too.
birthday to you.
Oh man. But this was a great discussion.
No, I'm saying thank you for having us on your platform to spread awareness and helping us make this thing a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to do it. And this is a good time for everyone to spam all of the links of the lovely broadcasters that we have here. So if we could get a mod to drop each of their links. And if you go to my tweet that I quote and that has been retweeted by many folks here.
She out here twoting, y'all.
A fucking twot it. You'll see all of their information. All of their information is listed there as well. So go to https://bing/
That's how it works.
Open up command
Flash.
prompts.
Yeah. I'm basically
Just-
hacking all of your mainframes right now. That's what's happening.
Mhm.
King the mainframe.
So now, again, like Ken, Token, really great having y'all on tonight. Appreciate you sharing your stories and going in depth with a lot of this stuff. You know, perspectives in this are so very important. And who would y'all like to host after this? I put it in our little doc. If any of y'all want to throw up any suggestions, by all means. And everyone in here who's watching right now, thank you again for tuning in. We appreciate this. We're doing this every Friday, same time, which is apparently 10 Eastern time.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I
Yes,
know time zones. I'm good at this. So 10 Eastern next Friday, if you want to join in for another great discussion. If you have any thoughts on this or any suggestions or anything that you'd like to have discussed for future episodes, feel free to hit up any one of us. And I would super encourage all of you to find each of these wonderful broadcasters, follow them on Twitter and on Instagram and on all of the places, and support them in their streams and support them in their businesses like Sunny. Maybe we can pop her command real quick because I'm pretty sure we've got the link to it. That would be great. Thank you for dropping those links.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's helpful as well. I see that. Oh, thank you. Very many lots. All right, everyone. We are going to go hang out and bring all of the love from this community to Papa Tez. So all be nice to yourselves tonight. Bye.
Take care, y'all.
Wear a mask.
Oh,
Wear a
yes.
mask.
Wash your hands.
Fuck's sake, Marmot.
And do not bring your kids.